Hello the internet, my name's Laura and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you a number of plants that I have over the years tried to kill. Before you get up in arms, please realize that there was a time when I wasn't as into plants as I am now. I always kind of had plants because my mom was very into plants, and she would kind of give them to me, or I'd get interested in them because she was interested in them. And then I'd kind of get bored of them. And when I say try to kill, it was more like I just didn't water them for a really, really long time. And while I did successfully kill some, there are actually some plants who survived this period of my life before I got into plants more deeply and, and increased my understanding of them. And so this video is a tribute to those plants that have survived so long with me. And I'm just going to tell you each of their stories a little bit, and hopefully you will not be super upset with me for having tried to kill these plants when we're done. Okay. So the first plant that we're going to look at today is my Ficus, Elastica, Burgundy. This guy is about yay big, but I've had him for, I want to say over 5 years. Pretty pathetic considering I've had it for almost 5 years. Like I said, this plant, I don't remember exactly where I get it. Whenever I don't know where a plant came from, I assume that my mother gave it to me because, like I said, my mother was always really into plants, and I always felt like I liked plants, but then I just wouldn't really take care of them so well. But anyway, I assume that I got this guy from my mother, and basically what would happen is I would water it, and then there would just be months that would go by where I wouldn't do anything with it. I wouldn't water it, and then I'd be like, maybe I should water it, and I'd dump a whole, thing of water in there and wet it down and then kind of go on my merry way. And so I'm not really surprised that this guy is not any bigger than he is because, I mean, really, he wasn't getting water. I'm actually not sure if I've ever changed the soil in this pot. I have no idea. I'm not sure I've ever changed the soil in this pot. And then at one point, I just kind of got fed up with him, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see it. I basically cut him all the way back, like all the way back, like chop, chop, chop. And despite that, this perky little plant decided that it was going to come back. And at this point, I've actually started taking care of him. I'm watering him when he gets dry. He was actually outside for a while this summer and absolutely loved that. I put him in a place, I did accidentally put him in a place where he got a little bit too much sun, so some of these lower leaves are a little sunburned, but I figured that out pretty quickly, and then I put him somewhere where he was super, super happy, put out all these nice leaves. He's even got another one coming in right now on this stalk, and then down here there's a new leaf. There's a new leaf on this little tiny guy, there's a new leaf on this little guy, and then way down here there's one growing out of the base, and that has got a new leaf coming in as well. So he's doing really, really well now. And so whenever people are asking what's a good plant for beginners, this guy is pretty good. Assuming that you don't fall into the newbie trap of watering it too much, but that's gonna kill any plant. So if you're really not sure, this guy can survive for a while without water and be perfectly happy. And now I am looking forward to turning him into an actual tree at some point. But it's only been a couple of months, well, maybe about a year since I've actually started taking care of my plants. So he still has a little ways before. The second plant has become multiple plants. This is a jade plant my mother gave to me. I know my mother gave me this one because I remember her giving it to me and I'm like, this is a stupid looking plant. Why would I want this thing? And it was in a tiny little pot. And no matter how much I didn't water it, it always looked exactly the same. It didn't grow because I wasn't watering it, but it also didn't die. And then when I started to get into succulents, you know, I learned more about it. I learned about propagation, and that's why it has turned into so many of these. And at this point, this one's just a couple of little cuttings, but this one, I've got it tied up right now because this guy wants to fall over, but I want to try and see how big I can grow this one, like just like let it go and see how big it'll get. I think this type of jade is one where it doesn't get quite as leggy as the other, like the bigger leafed jade. I don't know what the species name of this is, or I do, but it's like written somewhere else. But at the same time, I just want to see, oh, there's a little baby growing out of the middle of there. Huh. I just want to see what will happen if I just let it grow and let it get bigger and bigger. I'm just curious because you know, before I had it stuck in a tiny little pot, couldn't do anything. This guy I'm going to keep growing up and make him pretty happy. And he's actually had a lot of growth since I put him in here, so that's actually kind of cool. Now that I'm actually stopping and looking at him, he's got a whole bunch of new growth in here. Very nice. I'm apparently doing a pretty okay job. All right, the next plant is one, oddly enough, I actually bought this one for myself. It's an orchid. I was really intrigued by the blooms because they're kind of a very light peach color with the pink beard part, the part that sticks out, like the... and I bought it for myself because I really like that, and orchid blooms bloom for a really long time. And then after it stopped blooming, I didn't get rid of it, but I didn't really know how to take care of it so well. And so basically what happened is I heard that you were supposed to water them from the bottom. So what I did was I got a glass bowl and I stuck, you can actually probably tell, I got a glass bowl, I stuck it in the glass bowl, and then I filled up the bowl with water and I just left it. And then when the bowl got all the way empty, I would fill it up again and just leave it like that. And the plant didn't die, I mean, but it didn't really do much. And then at one point, I found out that doing that causes root rot. I know, like bizarre, right? And I pulled the orchid out of the pot that it was in, or I pulled it out of the pot, and I looked up a video online. I don't even remember whose video it was anymore, but it was someone who was rehabilitating, because he got all dried out because like he was getting water, but not really because the roots were rotted, and showed how to rehabilitate one. And so I cut off all the old leaves. I gave it water therapy, which is 12 hours just in a pot of water and then 12 hours out of a pot of water, and you go back and forth for like a couple of weeks until, you know, the leaves start looking good again. And then I put it back in this medium, and this leaf here is absolutely brand new. And as you can tell, he has a nice flower stalk going on here as well. And I'm not sure, there's like a root that's growing up out of here, so I'm not even sure how he's doing root-wise down in there, but at a certain point I might pull him out and look at him. But I guess I watered him enough, and my house conditions were good enough that he survived pretty well. And now that I'm actually trying to grow him, I'm really happy that he's rewarding me with a flower stalk. and the leaves, I'm still having some trouble. I think the humidity where I keep them isn't high enough, because like this new leaf is nice and shiny, but these older leaves are kind of like dry looking, and so that occurs to me as like a there's not enough humidity thing. Actually, when I water him, I tend to get him completely wet and then like get water on the leaves too, even though they say never to do that, because it never seems to hurt him, and I figure that helps with the humidity. But at some point, I think I'm going to try and play around with one of those pebble trays, where, you know, you put the water in the pebbles and it helps raise the humidity around him, and see if, I mean, he's happy, but I can see if I can make him a little bit more happy. So there is my orchid. Okay, and then now my mom and I have always been into plants, and like I said, for a lot of years I kind of went in and out of being interested in plants, and like her enthusiasm would kind of like, whenever we got together, she'd be like, oh, these plants, and I'd be like, oh, these plants. So at one point we got some cuttings of a plant from a friend of hers, I don't remember who it was, that was a Nightbloomingcereus, and we both brought it home and tried to propagate it, and didn't really have a lot of luck with it. It ended up shooting out a lot of those stems that aren't really leaves, they're just like stems, and never really growing any flowers, and never really doing much. I don't remember how long I had it before I just kind of got fed up with the fact that it wasn't doing anything. But a little bit after we had given up on those cuttings, I went online and ordered some plant cuttings, like just from, I think it was Amazon. Like, I went looking specifically for Nightbloomingcereus, I'm pretty sure, and then ordered some. And I sent them I think first I ordered some for myself, because I wanted to see if I could root them. And then once I was successful in rooting them, I sent some to my mother. My mother has much better light in her house. Like, I have terrible light in my house. Ignore the windows behind me, they get terrible light. They just look bright because, yeah. But anyway, I got 2 of those leaf cuttings. One was for white flowers, one was for pink flowers, and the pink one ended up dying because, like, I didn't know much about propagation back then, and they said keep the soil moist, and I'm pretty sure I rotted that one because I just kept it too moist. I mean, I didn't even know water propagation was a thing. I probably would have done water propagation had I known about it, but the other one I got, and I'm gonna see if you can still even see it on here. Oh wow, it's actually finally... So this is actually the original leaf, and I've had this guy for at least 5 or 6 years, but this is the original leaf that I got online, that propagation, and actually up until maybe a year ago, it actually, you could still see where they had written white on it in some sort of a marker, so that you knew, because you got the 2 leaves, the white one and the pink one, but I don't see that on there anymore. I was going to show you, but anyway, and so for a long time, because I think what the problem was is I didn't have enough light, I was getting these long stalks that were just long and thin and just went off into nowhere, and like didn't really get leaves on them. And so I kind of started getting sick of it. I mean, this is a pattern with me because I didn't know what the plant was supposed to do, and so when it wasn't doing anything, I was just like, whatever. And so I cut those back, and I decided to try again, but this time I put it outside where it got more light, and it was just so happy. All of this, except for the original leaf, all of this is 1 year's growth. Maybe that's not super impressive. I think it's super impressive. Like, I got all of this in like 1 summer of it being outside. and their leaves, they're healthy. So I'm looking forward to next summer when it's gonna, because it has basically stopped growing since it's come inside for the winter, but I'm not really surprised about that. But I'm really looking forward to getting it outside for next year and seeing if I can get more, because the plant itself is pretty mature, but these leaves obviously aren't, so I have no idea what my over and under on getting flowers are. But I'm just so happy that it's doing well that I'm pretty okay with it just doing well, even if I don't get any flowers, because I think it's still an interesting looking plant. And I was getting, like, I guess because of the sun, and it still has it a little bit, the edges were just getting a little bit red, like not damaged wise, but just like we're getting enough sun. Like, I think you can kind of see it on this one here. We were getting enough sun that it was changing the color a little bit. So really looking forward to seeing what this one's gonna do, whether or not I get any flowers off of it. And if you know what this specifically is, because like I said, I went looking for a Nightbloomingcereus. I don't know if that's what this is or isn't. So if you know what it is, you know, go ahead and throw it in the comments. I'd love to know, so that, because I keep calling it a Nightbloomingcereus, and if it's not that, then I don't want to keep calling it that. But until then, that's what I'm going to call it. All right. The last plant, I want to say, is the one that I've had the longest. When I say that I didn't know about propagation, that wasn't necessarily true. I knew that this particular plant could be propagated very easily by sticking it in water, and that is the only reason that it's still alive. This is my Scampia. I'm really proud of this, by the way. I'm telling you guys, I'm like really proud of this. It's not very long right now because I just recently, well, okay, let's start at the beginning. My mom gave me this plant. I thought it was very beautiful because it has the silver and the purple, and the undersides are like the burgundy or the darker purple or whatever. And I knew that you could propagate it by putting it in water. So what would happen is, in my normal getting bored of plants-ness, I would not water it. And the top of it would start to dry out and shrivel, but the ends would still be fine because it would die from the root, like it would die from the roots back. Like if you don't water a Scampia, it'll die up here first, and then it'll work its way down, and these will still be alive. So what I would then do is, when I saw it starting to die, I would snip off a bit, throw it in some water, wait like 3 or 4 days until it started rooting, and then like have the new plant for a while, and you know, water that until. So I managed to keep the plant alive doing this. And when I finally started getting back into plants, I was like, I saw all the really nice hanging baskets that people said, and I was like, that is my goal. And so I started propagating more than just enough to keep it alive. And like I let one get really, really long, and then I chopped up a bunch of pieces of it and then stuck them all in water, and that is how I managed to get this lovely, lovely basket. I just put all of those propagations in here, and then now it's fine. I'm finally starting to let it grow out. And so that's why it's not very long yet, but that's because all the length I had has gone into here. And I'm making sure that I keep it watered, though it really doesn't need to be watered all that much. This is the first time I've ever had this plant in this big of a container. And so it actually stays pretty nice for a decent amount of time. But this guy, super proud of this, and I will never let it die again. Well, I mean, if I can help it. And speaking of, if I can help it, there is another plant on this list of plants that I tried to kill. But his story is a little bit more complicated well, okay, I'm not going to tell you the story, obviously, because he is going to get his own video. I think I'm going to put it up the day after this video posts. But long story short, just as a little preview, lived for the longest time with me not watering him, and then as soon as I started trying to take care of him and do right by him, he started dying. I know, right? So I'm going to be posting that video. He's going to get his own video, and don't worry, we're pretty okay at this point, but it was touch and go for a little while. Anyway, if you wanted to see that whole story, you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and the video should be up tomorrow, whatever day it is, it'll be tomorrow. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you come back to enjoy that video, and please give me a like if you like. Subscribe to my Instagram, Stories and Succulents, and I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. All right, bye.